ఊరు చిన్నదే, చరిత్ర గొప్పది. ఊట చిన్నదే, చెరువు పెద్దది. ఈ వృక్షం వయస్సును జీవితాలతో కొలవాలి. దీని నీడలు గాలికి చెదిరిపోయేవి కాదు. చదరపు గజాలతో చూసే కొలతలకు కలతల తీక్ష్ణత తెలియదు. నౌ ఇన్ ఇంగ్లీష్, ఏ విలేజ్, though a small village, but its history is great. The ooze water might be trivial, but the tank is large. The age of this tree must be measured with lives. The shadows of it never be scattered by the wind. The severity of agony is unknown. To the measurement of mere square yards, the iron birds flying in the sky cannot see the row of ants below. The run of river never appears on the surface. Fields are few, but the yielded crop is huge. Walk is slow, but the success achieved is fabulous. Covering the soil with the skin of cement, do you call it progress? Measure not the ratio of creation with the dollar market. Though village is small, the breath is precious. Sunrise is old, but the feel is afresh. This is my second poem and last poem. This is title is Freedom Fighter. Freedom Fighter. I see him every day, standing like an outdated souvenir, devoid of crispness. A bronze statue with unkempt grey hair. Bird droppings alone his head. He spoils my mood. Looks like a cynic sculptor tried to modify Gandhi's statue on a pedestal on the 70th time. Counting Vande Mataram rosary at his fingertips, he makes everyone feel guilty. In the name of an ideals, this crazy fellow ruined his own life. For sake of principles, he threw up everything and now begging for a piece of lion cloth. Sacrificed all, now moves from door to door, seeking a morsel for his own family. He is another Siddhartha who left the palace, now caught while stealing a loaf of bread in Kapilavastu. Walks miles on and on through the scattered dirt from vehicles. Indulges in yoga to raise a rupee. There is nothing to sell. Except history. His progeny is walking with bent backs, loaded with bygone stories. At today's marketplace, old adventures do not sell. In almirahs, history sleeps between golden covers. Amidst souvenir advertisements, history is seen with a bent head and frightened looks. All of them are leaves of the same tree. They are all drawn daggers of single selfishness. No one claps for the old man's speech. He cannot add thrill to his pain. He cannot have rainbows in his tears. He cannot dish out. He cannot dish out witticisms and jokes, absolutely out of date rot. Every day he burns the roads while walking. Pitter patter falls the plaster. The young minister, who had never seen a jail, makes him go round and round for a jail certificate. The young minister who had never seen a jail makes him go round and round for a jail certificate. When the street people fly the flag, he stands at the end and sheds tears. I see him every day. He makes everyone feel guilty. I try to avoid him and search for other routes. Thank you.
Frida Kahlo was not always very honest about when she was born and things like that. Frida, does the day on which I was born matter? I arrived during the Mexican Revolution, give or take a year or two, and we were bound together, Mexico and I, in revolution and birth, in chaos and in art. I was bound to Diego as well, the architect of life, who, unfit for monogamy, didn't spare my own sister. Why did I keep going back to him when I knew he would find others? He had had many before me. Diego was my child, my lover, my universe, the accident of my life. I found others too. They thought I was a surrealist. I wasn't what they imagined. I never painted dreams. I just painted my own reality. Thank you. My next poem is a persona poem that I've written about one of the characters in Ibsen's plays, Nora, from A Doll's House. I don't know if you're familiar with this play, but Nora. As I left his house, I slammed the door. His spendthrift squirrel, his little lark. I did something I've never done before. As I left his house, I slammed the door. I know I'll feel I could have done more. At night, I'll miss my children in the dark. As I left his house, I slammed the door. No more his spendthrift squirrel, his little lark. Thank you. Yesterday was my mother's birthday. She would have been 97. She died 3 years ago. And here's a poem I wrote 4 years ago. And I'd like to read it in her memory. It's called A New T-Shirt. I just bought a new T-shirt, a bit like the ones I wore in the 70s with Che Guevara or Jimi Hendrix. This one is black and has a picture of Lou Major in the front. Lou Major, of the tiniest blue denim shorts legal in India. Lou Major, of the mismatched socks, green and yellow, red and blue. Lou Major, who jumps off the stage and runs through the crowd. Lou Major started the Bob Dylan Festival in Shillong. 50 years of music. He's been playing the guitar all over the country, singing for 50 years. And it's his birthday, his 68th birthday. My mother turned 93 in January. She lives in a nursing home. She doesn't always know who I am. Sometimes her face lights up when she sees my daughter, but she gives me a polite smile and looks away. Sometimes she does not open her eyes at all when I'm there, and sometimes she says a word or two. She stopped speaking 2 years ago, then gave us a shock when she suddenly asked for water. She doesn't say much, just looks away when she doesn't want to eat or drink. She doesn't need words as her eyes give me the look. Who's that man on your chest? Women have, all over the world, women have problems in inheriting property. And I have two poems about this, which are interconnected. The first one's called Coming to Calcutta After Losing My Father. I remember sitting on the steps by the door in the heat of the sun for hours. My grandmother didn't live there anymore, but in my mind I could see her pots and flowers. I sat in the baking sun for hours. My aunt had the key to the flat. It was empty now, no pots and flowers, just a lock on the door and a mat. My aunt had the key to our flat. Father gave it to her before he left. No one knew he would not come back. It was just a precaution against theft. Father gave her the key before he left, and yet she would not let me enter in. While he was afraid of a theft, she said it should go to my cousin. She would not let me enter in. One's right to land is enshrined in law. She said it belonged to my cousin. Laws may come and laws may go. A woman's right to land is enshrined in law, but women inherit poverty, not property. Laws may come and laws may go. I remember sitting on the steps by the door. Thank you. And the second poem in this is called Mary Roy versus the State of Kerala. It took more than a quarter of a century for Mary Roy to get her share of the property she inherited. She took on her brothers and the state of Kerala. And when the final decree came, 50 years after her father died, she had made history, fought for all the women whose only claim to the land they rely on for food and shelter is through their relationship to a man, a husband, father, brother, or son. A woman's right to inherit land is enshrined in law, and yet, all over the world, women inherit poverty, not property. There will always be legal loopholes that will make sure that formal guarantees have no power, and women who will defy them. And my last poem is called Across the River. It's about this area in Delhi, East Delhi, that in the 80s and 70s used to be called Yamuna Par. So I call it Meanwhile Across the River. I still see the setting sun, the jeep, smell the smoke in the air, hear the sound of birds chirping. I remember clearly the moment I discovered my handbag was gone. My passport, my traveler's checks, cash, all the money I had for the next few months. I had left the bag in the blue jeep when I got out to talk to an old man at Trilokpuri. I can see his turban, the vest over his shirt. He hadn't changed his clothes for a while. He told me when the mobs came, they killed 3 of his sons and 3 of his grandsons. When I bent down to pick up my handbag and discovered it was gone, I also discovered that possessions were just things.
I'd like to read, if I have time, I will finish 3 poems. If there is not enough time, I'd like to read 2. The first one is inspired in Jakarta, Indonesia, when I was there to attend the second session of ASEAN Literature Festival years ago. And this poem is about a cat. In the rainy season, it would rain very, very, very heavily, rainstorm in Indonesia very often. And one day, when I was at the central square of the capital city, I met a very heavy rainstorm. And I see there is a cat always sitting in the rain. So I wrote a poem for it. The title is Independent Cat, because the square's name is Independent Square. The whole Independent Square is your tea stage. Before you move, the storm has burst out gales of dark applauses, while you choose to be silently sitting like a new star, silently sitting in the old old-fashioned sky. Yet, praise flooding out of the theater of the big mosque is forcing you to retreat till you get back into the sewer. That's the first one. Would you like to have a feeling of Chinese version? 独立猫，整个独立广场是你的梯形舞台。在你走动之前，暴雨已爆发一阵阵乌压压的掌声，而你选择安坐，像一颗星星，安坐于旧市的天空。但是那从大清真寺高音喇叭里冲出来的祈祷，逼着你一步步后退，直到跌入下水道。Okay, now the second one is inspired in Nepal when I took a plane flying from Romania back to Kathmandu. So we flew across, the title of the poem is Across Himalayas by Plane. My wings skimmed over the tip of your nose. The heart alerted just now by the body tree in Romania. In a terrible mess for being tanked with your breath. Palms of millions of crowds brushed by your towering chest. One of them hid itself in my lens. Before I press the shutter, it had fled away suddenly and shyly. Your smile lowering Mount Kumalama. From now on, my dreams will be falling all the way till they are plainer than boiled water. That's all the second. Okay. The third one is was inspired in Romania. The city's name is Bistrița. Before the end of the Second World War, there were a lot of German people living there. But after World War II, they were forced to go back to Germany. And and this church, I don't think I have time. Just read it. Okay. Shall I read it? Okay, I will read it quickly. The title is The Discarded Church. A holy garment finally abandoned by the bar street, not because of being broken, or not because of being worn, but because of a hole made by a worldly fire. The knights returning from Crusade War took off flags from horsebacks and inserted them into its heart to show off victory of their handcraft. In its breast, letting in air, there is still enough room for us to smear and see, first to swear and see our own images. There is still enough room for us to sing and hear our own echoes. In its narrow inside, we can still go up. Standing on its shoulders, we can still look down the streets and even the surrounding mountains. What is reclining on the stela is the gospel frozen by culture. A gigantic snake in hibernation.
Sound of Gujarati, verses on poetry. કવિતા કરતા કરતા ભાષા મને લખે અને મને ખબર પણ ન પડે કે મને છેકતી જાય. છેકાતો અક્ષર તે હું જ અને શાહીનો લીટો પણ હું જ. ફરી લખાતા કોઈ અક્ષરમાંથી કદાચ મારા નામની એંધાણી મળશે એમ માની હું લખે જ જાઉં અને શાહી ભાષામાં ઓગળી જાય. ઝાડની હલબલતી છાયાને તાણી જતી નદીની જેમ. હવે પાંદડાની જેમ અક્ષરોને ઓઢીને હું ઝાડ જેવો ઊભો રહું વરસતા લીટા હેઠળ. Conversation with trees.
Tree bends a branch, trembling with nascent leaflets to another. The other steadily holds up a nest. One shows green lichen spreading over its brown bark. The other has caterpillars crawling on its trunk. One turns its foliage from the other to share the sunlight. Under the earth, the other ducks its roots to where dampness is. Trees lighter on the sheets. One has to know the script of fragrances and dew and raindrops and snow as well. They paint on moonbeams and lake waters. As a child, how often did you keep awake and leave for solitary wanderings? True, the squirrels do not scurry over our tables, nor do the birds perch on chairs. But we rejoice making wooden toys of birds flapping their stringed wings
and carry clumsily carved bull carts from ancient ruins. We have played with boats, cars, trains, aeroplanes of wood. And of course, wooden soldiers with wooden swords. And prayed to saints fashioned from logs. And cut a cross from a tree. And now we beg forgiveness from this paper for not having conversed with trees. Once this mist clears, The book is Once This Mist Clears. Once this mist clears, will I see the mountain ranges beyond? With dense treetops and waterfalls along the slopes? Will I see the birds, the stars, the clouds, the lighted windows of the town, the bakery, the pavement, the solitary finger tapping on the door, the palpable darkness, the darkness holding the shroud of mist. Once this mist clears, will I see ice blue air and topaz sky, and curling smoke from the chimneys? An eternity has festered within this dreary room, littered with hulking chairs, disarrayed desk, quotidian carpet, meek curtains, vacuous vessels, scruffy shelves, maudlin mirrors, surviving in silent cacophony of lifeless existence. When this mist clears, I want to emerge in simple words that vibrate like a trill from a trickling faucet, swirl like steam from a coffee pot, float like dust in sunbeam, slip softly from lonely lips to say, I love you. To no one in particular, but to everything.
Well, I hope to explore some of my freedom in the form of these poems. I take the local train to work, and so it's quite natural to just write down something there. So this poem was found there. The ladies' compartment. We are a motley crowd with handbags, laptops, and lunch bags, spotting IDs of rings and toe rings, buffering dark circles for unwaxed conversations of etc. in food, fabric, finance, family. We manicure safety and freedom in lip gloss songs, henna cones, and social network pages on the phone. Nasal calls of peanut and samosa vendors are flipped by in bookmark pages, hoping that one day a rainbow would find the puffed eyes gazing vacant at the window. Our laughter indulges in anonymous company of dry sweat, an aura of our anatomy. We waltz with our body mass index, pH of pimples, dimples, wrinkles, and uneven tones of our skin, on pedicured sandals, cracked slippers, stiff joints, and a numb lower back. The overhead bar sings our pursuits. We are one in many, many in one. Soon we would slumber to cricket songs, leaving the lady in the welcome poster near the door to rattle alone with empty shadows. Tomorrow will be a new dawn, sunscreened with another ticket for the daily soap in the ladies' compartment. Thank you. Talking of trains, many of you are aware, or those who have come from outside, this place, Begumpet, also has a local train station here. And I often hop on and off from there also for work. In fact, this place, Begumpet, I read somewhere that Bashir al-Unisa Begum, when she got married into the Paiga family, which is one of the oldest ruling families of Hyderabad, she got it as her wedding dowry. So this is a thought in process on that. A bequest. At the Begumpet station, the local train lulls forward till that part of the long platform where it is meant to be. Unlike the other stations, where it would slow down like sips of vodka trickling warm in the throat. You know then the destination is arriving. But here the air gravels for a moment of solitude, ephemeral in a cacophonic map. Birds and butterflies are seldom a bother. A moment more in memory of those stones, marbles, chips of a lacquered hand mirror, fumes of attar, smelted long before a railway platform careened through cement and asbestos roofs. The azan flips pages of brick and mortar for whimsical daylight promises in a billboard frame peering over a wall. What comes in goes out. Nostalgia stagnates in the storm water drain with the unknown, some untold, a few unspoken pieces of a history slumbering in this landscape, a wedding dowry named after her, Begum Pet. Thank you. Talking of landscapes, Deepak ji read about conversation with trees and perhaps how the landscape has really changed around us. So perhaps there is also something called a cityscape. There's so many things around your own city. I know how much along with the local train, the metro is changing the landscape so quickly around us. So this is not about a train yet, but still cityscape. Square feet stacked one above the other, like a box of Natraj pencils, erase a skyline where 4-year-old Manu is learning to count windows. He has progressed to 40 this year. The rooster must be a fossil in his science on the 35th floor. There are no feathers to pick. Angry birds do not leave behind any. Sparrows do not nest on AC compressors. And those perched on the electrical fence are of a low resolution and painted in a mahogany in his room, where new records are being ticked for games in the tab. The cuckoo moans over an arid sky, bearing the skeletal remains of pink blossoms that once were. The moon plays hide and seek with a construction crane. The sun is tucked safe in thumb-sized bottles of vitamin D, Terra, Giga, Mega, decipher space in a space where there are no Ashoka trees swaying over a park, watching sun stencil shadows melt into their own selves. No playgrounds, no ground for life. Thank you. In spite of that, I'm happy to see kids around there. There's so many swings. It's good to have a location in a school, no? So, talking of grounds and life, I think the city bustles with life during Dashera, the 10-day festivity. So this is for the goddess. Stains. A lament flickers the evening lamp. For 9 nights, the goddess carves herself in beige and jewels, drapes a silk and straps silver foiled cardboard weapons. I am a mannequin, she says, tongue tied with paper flowers. Her geometry does not rest on mythology and offerings. The revolving disco lights decorate her avatars in turmeric and vermilion, bleeding down her pleats. I fear for her safety pins. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. It's a lovely afternoon, little humid, but in good company of good poets and a wonderful audience. Thank you so much.
I'll start with a poem. It's called I Remember the Ghosts of My Old Wounds, Limping from Afar. Am I audible? Yeah. Okay. To garnish life, death demands jokes from the wounds of fidelity. Nasir Kazmi. I remember the ghost of my old wounds, limping from afar, hushed like a snow-ridden balcony, under a slate-grey sky, a cloud of tears in its withered hand. I see the snowmen imprisoned in the crevices of wintered city, and hear their wails echo in the marrow of the peeling graves that dot Shaheed Mazar. I see the snowmen huddled over their frozen palms, reading their cries in the cotton rain, sighing into the velvet void. Why are we content? Have we gained anything yet? In love, like words were daffodils, little did we know what wealth we had chanced upon. These are the roads now, these our destinations now. Perchance we may be consoled to settle on some pretext now. Are we not following the lead of that old grainy ghazal poet who claims self-deception like self-deception prevails now, grass appears greener on our side too now. The snowmen flare up their lanterns and saddle the horses of their night, trusting their old nightmares to slip the pale moon past them. They beat the iron of their chains into reins, squish their songs into a cardamom memory, just the ideal flavor brewed for the kahwa at dawn. Kahwa is a beverage we have in Kashmir. And set off for the desert where the 11 cruel stars stand guard over the deep well of dejection and death, humming the forgotten monarch who laments, staring at the bloodshot eyes of a dead son. Either you should have fashioned an emperor of me, or forged from my crown a begging bowl for me. Why did you not make me a frenzied lover of? Why did you not make a frenzied lover of me? Why choose sense for me? If humility was to be my destiny, why was I not doomed to be the dust of a lover's lane? The heart was to be broken into 1,000 pieces, so be it. Why was your shoulder not lent to me? If the company of the dancing dervishes was forbidden to me, was I not even fit for drunken assembly? If I was deemed fit for if I was deemed worthy of inebriation from love, why was the chalice of love, why was the chalice of life impounded from me? I await you at the end of this January night for the shadow of your fallen lover to be resurrected by the tongues that scripture a song. The truth of your beauty was beyond me. I stared 1,000 times, but it was beyond me. If your joy doesn't cloak my sorrow, far be such joy from me. What is this life of fabled love to me? Why should I pride over this quiet compliance? It found little favor with the powers that be. All words in order, all eyes in attention, such precautions, yet love's cipher eludes me. Breeze, convey this message for me. Since your departure, neither morning dawns nor night comes to be. I too was invited to the beloved's party. She persisted in her inquiries. Not a word escaped me. We lurk like our half-forgotten names in the half-bit tongues of our ancestors aboard the serpentine army trucks laden with almond blossom, sprinkled with fresh blood, lugging it up the mountain passes to perfume a dead enemy. Our maimed days and scarred nights are alike, embroidering the velvet white with the paisley of death. We are not afraid now. We are not afraid now. We shed the skins of our childhood many moons back. We live with tomorrow crammed in our hollow bones. We await you to return to you and be rid of this reign of freedom's terrible ache. Thank you. Since it is Republic Day today, so there was this poem that I wrote last year while I was in Pune. It's called At the Cafes of Your Memory. Faz, what befell the travelers of late last night? Where did the morning breeze halt? Where did morning alight? Faz Ahmed Faz. At an avant-garde cafe in uptown Pune, the reserved tables celebrate a teenager's birthday in cosmopolitan English. My nearly dead phone flares up with a call from home. My mother laments in frayed Kashmiri, I'm happy you aren't home. 2 boys were shot dead today. The waiter sprinkles stale fury over my posh coffee and computes the rushed sum of gun death on pale margins of an old novel once read by my dead father, not a penny less, not a penny more. The ghost of the balloon that blew itself up like an old bomb blast yesterday in the market of my covering poems incites me. Stab the cricket babble, set fire to the uncaring bids of cricketers, bend the expensive cutlery of showy fashion, and split the pleased table of long-lived puberty. My mother is so grateful I'm safe and alive. I'm her world and her afterworld. I must not argue about Kashmir. I must keep safe. She suspects my poems are unsafe and wants them shipped to her without delay. The door of her house is blocked by the tent set up by a time-worn hartal to celebrate the death anniversary of Republic of Tricolor death. The stiff tent will be led to the mazar tomorrow, brown bamboo bones packed neatly in coffin white canvas. The courier will then reach me. She drops the dead phone. I rise and pay my overdue bill. Shake the birthday boy's surprised hand, smile politely, and wish him a long life ahead. Thank you. There's this last poem I'm going to read. Do I have some time?
So,
Okay.
last 1 minute.
Yeah. So I read this poem. There was an accident that happened last year on a mountain range, Mount Kolahai, where two trekkers who were friends of my cousin died. So it's called In the Trekker's Memory for Adil and Naveed at Kolahai. It starts with Nasir Kazmi again. कुछ यादगार इस शहर सितमगर ही ले चलें, आए हैं इस गली में तो पत्थर ही ले चलें. If nothing more, please permit a foaming inscription from the scripture as a souvenir for me, as a souvenir with me. Were I to sail like this in the dull sun, how will I slaughter the ash of your saffron memory? Let me drape a dunga over my head and o'er it with your rancid shadow. Some bones scavenged from the belts of the barren Karevas, some sign mistaked for a wonder, lest grief win the election, for the metaphor to fib the FIR of your journey. Thus do you play a bleak joke with my porcelain heart. If the adjourned waves reflect a prison inside, stroll outside. Thank you.
This one is about my mother. My mother's fault. You marched with other 7-year-old girls singing songs of freedom at dawn in rural Gujarat, believing that would shame the British and they would leave India. 5 years later, they did. You smiled when you first saw Maqbool Fida Hussein's nude sketches of Hindu goddesses, and laughed when I told you that some people wanted to burn his art. Have those people seen any of our ancient sculptures? Those are far naughtier, you said. Your voice broke on December 6, 1992, as you called me at my office in Singapore when they destroyed the Babri Masjid. We have just killed Gandhi again, you said. We had. Aute karai koi divas? Can anyone do such a thing anytime? You asked, aghast, staring at the television, as Hindu mobs went house to house looking for Muslims to kill, after a train compartment in Godhra burned, killing 58 Hindus in February 2002. You were right each time. After reading what I've been writing over the years, some folks have complained that I just don't get it. I live abroad. What do I know about India? But I knew you. That was enough. And that's why it turned out this way. My wife died in 2006, so the second poem is about, there was a cat she used to give milk to outside her house in London, and the cat suddenly turned up on the 3rd death anniversary, so this is it. The cat on a cold morning in early fall. Remember the black cat that used to come to our garden for the saucer of milk you would leave out for her at night? She came unannounced today, on this crisp autumn morning, 3 years later, just like that morning 3 years earlier when you went away. Sunlight rests on the leaves of the aging trees, the sky cloudless and clear blue. The cat smelled the wild shrubs, looked around, shivering slightly, feeling the chill of your absence, inhaling the still life of that garden. And then she disappeared in the forest of the weeds. This is a long one, so I won't go into that. Otherwise, I'll eat up my time there. This, I think, everyone, you might enjoy. This is about the Brexit crisis. And This is an English person responding to why they are leaving. So, yeah. Our love was never love, really. It was an alliance, a pact. Ties were forged for steel and coal, the bonhomie a mere act. They spoke in foreign tongues over there, with umlauts and funny accents. They always drove on the wrong side. At school, their grammar a torment. The channel was our moat, actually, to keep away the dragons. The tunnel snaked beneath the water. We hid behind our wagons. We liked our beer warm, in pints, theirs chilled and served in liters. And our meadows stretched for miles and miles, theirs circumscribed in meters. Our isles were cold and wet and grey. On theirs the sun would shine. Our beaches small and filled with stones, theirs dry like ancient wine. Romans came and built our roads. Normans came to rule. Germans gave us kings and queens. We weren't anyone's tools. To write our stories, our bard of Avon went to Verona and Venice. Byron's muse was an alpine rock. Lady Brett Ashley had Paris. We split our blood everywhere, in Flanders, Ypres, Tynecourt. White, but also brown and black, a past we often forgot. We can hold our head high now, tell Brussels who's the boss. We build our walls and cut our ties, unaware of our loss. We want our past to make us big, the map reassuringly pink. That past is now a foreign land. We shrivel and then we shrink. But our home is our castle again, even if it crumbles. We will keep calm and carry on, and we mustn't grumble. And so we leave, proud and bitter, our upper lip still stiff, to seek a past we think was great, secure on the white cliffs. Disentangling the ties that bind is not simple, nor is it easy. Now they are here and we are there. The untying makes us dizzy. We lose our parts, become smaller. There go the Irish, the Scots. We are back in time, 1973, lost in our own little plot. Our empire lives in our minds. We thought it would be easy to turn the clock back to then when tomorrows were rosy. We thought we would always matter. Our days would never end. But they did. We will find we are a small island. And I do a lot of work on writers in prison, and one such was Liu Xiaobo, the Chinese Nobel laureate. And this poem was dedicated to him, and I'll read the original in Gujarati after that. How to erase a man. They were warned that if they buried him deep, he would return in spring as a flower because he was a seed. And they were worried that if they placed his ashes in an urn and attach it to a rocket and fire it in the sky and program the rocket to release the urn, which would scatter the ashes in space, then each particle of his ashes would become a star, and the stars would glow, and parents would name their sons after those stars. So they lowered the urn into the ocean, hoping that fish would swallow the ashes, and the ashes would disappear and no longer flow. But they had no idea that the ashes would dissolve in the water, and in time, the water from beneath would rise to the surface and evaporate and reach the skies and feed the clouds and rain on this vast land, this good earth. And 100 flowers will bloom and sway to the lilt of the flute. It was not quite what they had planned. And in Gujarati, માણસ ભૂસવાની કળા. એ લોકો રોજ સૌને ગભરાવતા. જો વાંસ ઊંચો થાય તો એને પહેલો જ કાપવો જોઈએ. નીચી મૂંડી રાખવામાં જ સાર છે, એમ સારી પ્રજા માની ગઈ. પણ એક વાંસ નીકળ્યો હઠીલો. પવનના સુસવાટા ભલે વાંસને હચમચાવી દેતા, પણ આ વાંસ તો ઊભો જ થઈ જતો, અને એને કાપવા જાઓ તો ભલભલી તરવાલો બની જતી બુટ્ટી. એ લોકોને પહેલેથી ચેતવણી આપી હતી કે જો આ માણસને દફનાવશો તો આ વસંત ઋતુમાં પાછો આવશે પુષ્પ બનીને, કારણ કે માણસ નથી, બીજ છે. એ લોકો તો પડ્યા વિમાસણમાં કે જો આ માણસની રાખ એક કળશમાં મૂકી એક રોકેટમાં ઘુસાવી રોકેટ સાથે મોકલી દઈએ અવકાશમાં, અને એક વખત અંતરિક્ષમાં પહોંચ્યા પછી રોકેટનો પાછલો દરવાજો ખોલી દઈએ તો એની રાખ પ્રસરાઈ જાય શૂન્યતામાં. પણ આ તો માણસ છે ગજબનો. એનું એક એક કણ બની જાય તારો, અને એ તારા પછી ઝગમગે, અને એ જોઈએ પૃથ્વી પર મા બાપો પોતાના છોકરાઓના નામ પાડ્યા માણસની યાદમાં. હવે એ ગણતરી કરી એ લોકોએ આ માણસની રાખનો કળશ સમુદ્રમાં વહેતો કર્યો, જેથી સમુદ્રના પેટાળમાં માછલીઓ રાખના કણો ચૂસીને ગળી જાય. પણ એમને શું ખબર કે રાખ તો થશે પાણીમાં વિલીન, અને પાણીના બિંદુ આવશે સમુદ્રની સપાટીએ, અને થશે એનું બાષ્પીભવન અને સૂક્ષ્મ જલશિખરો પહોંચશે આકાશમાં ને મળશે વાદળને અને વાદળમાં પ્રસરાવશે ભીનાશ અને પડશે વરસાદ એવો તો ધોધમાર કે હજારો પુષ્પો ખીલશે અને ડોલશે વાંસળીના સૂર સાથે. એવો હતો આ માણસ. એ લોકો ગમે તેટલા પ્રયત્ન કરત તો એ માણસ તો કરતો એને મન ફાવે તેમ જ. હઠીલા માણસના આત્મવિશ્વાસ સામે આ લોકોના રંજ અને જીદની શું કિંમત, શું હિંમત?
I cannot carry on this conspiracy of love amid the boundaries of these four walls. If love is merely the loneliness of two beating hearts, I do not want it. That's one. The boy in the blue shirt. Between Netravati and the sea, Netravati is a river in the Mangalore. Okay. Between Netravati and the sea, a bridge of rock. Netravati says, your barriers cannot separate us, and with a smile kisses of edge of the sea. That morning, I heard cuckoos sing the first time this spring. Now, with a familiar summer song, turning it over and over in my head, I set out of our town. Then I see the boy in the blue shirt emerging from the winter flowers into the spring. From the bloom, hiding the winter nights, the garden of jasmine, sighing in the swing of spring, in fullness of green, through tender mango flower paths, I see the boy in the blue shirt. From the place of chirping honeybirds and tender palm sweet over the vale, where colorful butterflies play childlike games. Through showers of flowers and warm breezes, I see the boy in the blue shirt. Shirt stained with pollen, with full hands of flowers, jasmine, love and others. I see the boy in the blue shirt. Each year, entangled and jostling in the same place. Each year, hand in hand, where we collect and left a fragrant life filled with joy, I search and stop the boy in the blue shirt. I blow the branch of my heart and I ask, I have colors saved for you. Should I sprinkle them on you? He come close to my breath. His smiling cheeks are in agreement. Thank you. In the dark of the night. In the dark of the night, passion made me ride on the waves of flood. Now, there is no search, the Musi is the trace of a tear. As it bores into the night, from the ruins of the evening, the fort croons its own sad song. Stock remembers a raw memories, splendor like a clean of bricks. I shut the door, the balcony sad. Bhagamati anklets tinkle inside me. Stringing together endless evenings, does not it make a night? I wake up, come to for your help. I make a solitary stage where curtains drawn us. It is just you and me. Summer dawn's honeybee, the rainbow of the first rain, the gentle shiver of the early winter. Seasons flood in all together. Desire, inspecting the gathering, raises an eyebrow. Perhaps, since we cannot pluck and gather, the Punaga tree rains flowers relentlessly, where singing songs together does not make it a love. Now I shall wake up with myself. Our Malli is so thrifty. Each day she will grant 2, maybe 3 birds as sunlight. Shimmers away behind the light dark veil. The moon in the brush starts to smell sweet as 2 or maybe 3. Unable to enter through closed windows for air conditioning or for fear of mosquitoes, perfume gushes in the whiff as the doors open when the doorbell chimes. Wow! From where does this loving fragrance greet us? She turns all inquiring heads herself. Our blossoming malli, our jasmine creeper, exactly like your spare sweet words. Thank you so much.
And because of that turbulence, it cannot freeze. So you get these little blocks of ice on top, which are very easy to sort of freeze as well as melt. And that was, when I came across that word and I said, okay, this is exactly what my life is, I think. But I will not read that poem. The book is available, so I will direct you to the bookstore. What I'd like to do is start with a poem called What We Do to Our Gods. There are some lines by the Hungarian poet Ferenc Sándor. I probably mispronounced that. But he talks about, I'll quote them, as a bather's thigh is brushed by skimming fish, so there are times when God is in you and you know. But of course, that's not how we experience our gods. So here's the poem. We grab our fish raw, sailing the seas in trawlers full of hate, setting our nets down and bringing garbage back, with a few stray shellfish gasping in the lines. We watch them die and smile, for we will have food tonight, and God is great. Sometimes, because it's more fun the primal way, we spear them with our iron rods and pointed tips, diving underwater to chase them down. They are minding their own business in coral reefs, but the earth is ours, and the ocean too. We lay claim to the reddening sea. We watch them wriggle, and we smile, for we will have dinner tonight, and God is great. We grab them, stab them, sink our lines. We are still good, for we chant God's name as we serve death on our dining tables, and the taste on our tongues is great. Thank you. I have a really bad cold and cough, so I hope that's not going to create a problem. But here's a poem called Kites. Kites are flimsy, fragile, decorative, paper thin, bearing their wooden cross, biding their time in airless drawers, hidden away from the sky. Kites are nasty, like women. Sharp-edged, they fly against the clouds, bite into your hand. The threads they bear have hidden shards of glass, unfurling as they gauge the weft of wind. You who stand on the parapet edge, believing you hold the strings, look up where it hovers and rustles. Kites are nasty. They soar, they tug against the reins, catch the nearest squall, and disappear. You will only be left with a stinging hand and an empty space above. So I have a poem called The Clinging Vine. It actually started with this image of, as a woman, there is a point in your life when the only time anyone talks to you is when someone has to be paid or someone has to be fed. So I had this really strong image of all the wires just sort of curling back and everything, this just shutting down, everything just shutting down. So it started with that image and it became something else. So here's the poem. Put her in cold storage. Let the grey metallic doors shut upon her. She will taste good when the time is right. Toss her into boiling water, so red and soft till the skin splits and the juices ooze. De-seed her, gently roast the flesh. A bit of garlic is always good, roughly minced, spluttering in hot oil. For perfect partners, try some ginger shreds. Lastly, put her into the shiny processor. Choose the blade with care to ensure the texture's right. Chunky bits are perfect for the salads, but pureeing makes her smoother down the throat. Appetizer, main course, take your pick. Let dessert wait. So this is a poem that I wrote to a friend, Veena, who moved to Canada. A letter to Veena. You should be here, Veena, making your music on this sugar-baked morning. The din of the riots has turned to a cawing crow, shaking its head on my windowsill, and I'm hoping its feathers will not turn to knives again. You should be here, my friend. The mists of Bhima Shankar are far away from your Canadian winter and quicksilver sun. But they crowd upon me on this sugar-baked day, these gods you left behind, and we did too, as some of us turned to rats and died on our beds, to be picked upon by crows on iron sills. You should be here, my friend. But why should you be here? So we can pretend there is nothing to run away from as we scrabble through skyscrapers that crumble on us. Veena, the piper has turned to a pipe and this music is turning us mad. The sugar-baked sky is burnt and black in the sun. How is the sun where you have run away to? You shouldn't be here, my friend. We are making our music through scattered nights, blind to the crows on our windowsills. They merge with the dark, except for their beady eyes. And in the mornings, their claws are still around the iron bar. Stay far away, Veena. Stay far. It is wise. Do not be too close when the crow flies.